In this presentation, I will be discussing mental illness and some of the ways it affects the 8 dimensions of wellness. The philosophy of Tibetan medicine and its focus on the human mind for wellness will be covered, along with viewing mental illness from a humanities perspective in terms of how society views the mentally ill and the effect that has on their ability to seek treatment. From a business perspective, mental illness is a factor contributing to the socioeconomic status of individuals and creates an unhealthy environment. Because mental health is so important, I decided to discuss each of the 8 dimensions in brief detail rather than a few in great detail. This creates a picture of how interconnected wellness and health are. This presentation is not to educate individuals on mental illness or specific types of mental illness, but to demonstrate how different mental illnesses can have similar effects on the dimensions of wellness. So what is mental health? Mental health, as defined by Healthy People 2020, is a state of successful performance of mental function, resulting in productive activities, fulfilling relationships with other people, and the ability to adapt to change and cope with challenges. It includes emotional, psychological, and social well-being, affects our thinking, feelings, and actions. Mental health determines how we handle stress, handle relationships, and make decisions. Why is mental health important? Mental health and physical health are directly connected. A person's mental health plays a direct role in an individual's ability to maintain physical health. A few ways that good mental health state is important are that it allows people to realize their potential, cope with life stresses, work productively, and contribute to communities. Some other examples of why mental health is so important are that it improves the quality of life, maintains physical health and well-being, reduces medical costs, and is good for business. What I mean by that is, employees with good mental health are more productive, have better performance, consistent work attendance, and fewer workplace accidents take place. What is mental illness? Mental illness, defined by the National Alliance on Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, is a condition that impacts a person's thinking, feeling, or mood, and may affect his or her ability to relate to others and function on a daily basis. Some examples of mental illnesses are depression, ADHD, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, dissociative disorders, eating disorders, schizophrenia, and post-traumatic stress disorder, although there are many, many more. Some interesting statistics about mental illness are 1 in 5 adults experience a mental health condition each year, and 1 in 20 live with a serious mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. 50% of mental illnesses present themselves by age 14, and 75% develop by age 24. What is wellness? I define wellness, or well-being, as the overall lifestyle and environmental situation of an individual. This can relate to relationships, financial situation, health stress level, and any other factors that contribute to an individual's overall life. Wellness can be further categorized into 8 dimensions. The 8 dimensions of wellness are emotional, financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual, and environmental. Emotional wellness means how you cope with life and the daily ups and downs of it, and how to create satisfying relationships. Financial refers to the satisfaction with your current future financial situations. Social helps you develop a sense of connection and belonging and a well-developed support system. Spiritual not only refers to religion, but also your beliefs on where you stand in the universe and your purpose in life. Occupational means you create satisfying experience that's through work and receive enrichment and confidence through that. Physical is more on the health side of things, recognizing you're unhealthy and taking steps to change it. Intellectual means you recognize your creative abilities and find ways to use those abilities and expand your knowledge. Environmental refers to where you live, the environment you stay in. So a little bit about emotional wellness. Say somebody asks you to carry a bucket of water across a field without spilling it. You could do that with very little difficulty. Now, if that same person asked you to carry that same bucket across the field, only this time you had to do it carrying a backpack full of rocks and hopping on one foot, it's a bit more challenging. For a person suffering from depression, simple tasks such as keeping a doctor's appointment, mailing a letter, or being stuck in traffic can become extremely overwhelming and have a great impact on their ability to cope with life. A little bit about financial wellness, talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. A person with PTSD spends the majority of their time just trying to make it through the day. They often face intense trauma memories or flashbacks that can be triggered by seemingly random events or sights throughout the day. A color, a bang, someone who looks familiar, something that reminds them of their trauma. This makes it difficult for them to accomplish routine tasks or even hold down a job. So imagine the difficulty they would have establishing a financial security net or setting up future financial goals. It's not really a priority for someone who's just trying to survive the day. Social wellness. So I chose to talk about paranoid schizophrenia for social wellness. One of the symptoms, or one of the possible symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia is auditory or visual hallucinations. Often these hallucinations revolve around the individual who's suffering being persecuted or having a feeling that people are out to harm them in some way. The hallucinations make social interactions nearly impossible, and these individuals tend to isolate in an attempt at self-preservation. Because of this, forming trusting relationships is difficult at best, and they may act out or even harm others they come in contact with. Isolation is a big one here. They isolate for self-preservation, and therefore they don't seek out relationships or go to community events. Spiritual wellness. Decided to talk about obsessive-compulsive disorder in the spiritual wellness aspect. A person who has OCD experiences obsessive and compulsive thoughts to complete specific tasks in a specific way. These thoughts and compulsions are linked to a belief system that they hold. They often think that if they don't complete these tasks in a specific way, something bad will happen to them or someone they love or something in their life. This outlook can affect their understanding and belief about their place in the world, make them question their purpose, and can influence their religious beliefs. Something that I didn't really use in my resources and my citations was I read an interesting article about religion and how different religions have a lot of obsessive-compulsive disorder things to them, like praying 3 times a day or washing specific body parts in certain orders. That definitely is part of the spiritual wellness dynamic as well. In terms of occupational wellness, I chose to talk about eating disorders, specifically bulimia. This illness can be time-consuming. The characteristics of binging and purging and the effort that it takes to keep it a secret takes up a lot of the individual's time. The time they spend trying to hide the illness detracts from their ability to do their job well. Because so much effort is going to the illness instead of the work, it makes it difficult to receive satisfaction from doing a job well done. It's hard to gain a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment from the work and build the confidence needed to keep going if so much of your day is focused on hiding your eating disorder. Physical wellness is the most related to health. Individuals living with mental illness are at a higher risk for heart disease than those without a mental illness, and the majority of the risk that they're facing is preventable. Some of the reasons why mentally ill individuals are at greater risk is because they're not receiving preventive care or good medical care for their problems. Quite often, psychiatrists do not consider medical problems to be part of their core roles and responsibilities of treating their patients, while internalists don't understand the higher risk associated with those who suffer from a mental illness, and therefore the result is that the individual is caught between two systems and they receive fragmented care. Some of the increased risk factors that they face are smoking, obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol and hypertension, or high blood pressure, same thing. Each of these risk factors can be made worse by antipsychotic medications, which are often prescribed to treat mental illness. Intellectual wellness. I decided the The best way to illustrate this would be children with ADHD. They have a lot of time where they're struggling to focus for any length of time, and they struggle immensely in the classroom setting. As a result, they're often removed from their peers and judged as unintelligent, even though they are intelligent. They just can't translate that like other kids do. When they're removed from their classrooms, they're unable to take part in learning activities of their peers, and they have to work exponentially harder than their peers just to keep up. Quite often this leads to frustrations, and they give up completely, and in extreme cases might end up dropping out of school, which can lead to illiteracy, undereducation, and a lack of ability to increase their knowledge on their own. Environmental wellness. Because many of the mentally ill population are unable to hold jobs, they often rely on government assistance and live in poverty-stricken areas. These areas often lack access to parks, grocery stores, employment, good medical care, and do not promote health or wellness. Because of the area where they're living, unhealthy options are often the only options available, like McDonald's or fast food, or sitting around watching TV because there's no parks. They are prime for falling victim to target marketing for uneducated people or poverty-stricken people. In combination with their mental illness and their high risk factors, and in some cases lack of an education, makes them an extremely vulnerable population and can impact their wellness overall. So, mental illness in general, the cultural views around this are that society views the mentally ill as inferior, and often with a type of fear. They build strong judgments and biases against them based on pop culture and things like that talk about mental illness without really having any scientific backing. Because of the judgments and the biases, the mental ill are less likely to seek support and treatment for their illness, and they often suffer in silence. Because of the stigma around that, they don't want to come forward and share their experiences, and therefore it just leads back to a circle of the general public being uneducated about mental illness and viewing them as inferior and with a type of fear. So, mental health is such an important factor in wellness that the ancient Tibetan philosophy is based around the mind. They believed that the mind is the base of everything, and all existence and moments depend on it. It creates every phenomena, both internal and external. Based on their philosophy, overall health is broken down into three humors: body, energy, and mind, and this translates into energy that flows through the body, sustaining health while maintaining mental awareness. When in balance, the three humors bring good health, and when out of balance, they bring ill health. Mental illness certainly would throw the humors out of balance and create ill health, based on increased risk factors and how out of balance each dimension of wellness can become due to mental illness. So in conclusion, mental health is a vital component to overall wellness. Each of the 8 dimensions of wellness work together to create an overall well individual. When mental illness is involved, it's hard to stay well because each of the 8 dimensions can be affected. If you're not well, it's a very, very short step to chronic illness and a generally unhealthy life, and can even lead to premature death. Here are my references that I used for this presentation. Feel free to email me with any questions you may have. On page 2. And thank you for listening.